Hey everyone! In my last video, I did kind of this like overarching introduction to the publication history behind decks associated with these three decks. Obviously, these boxes look identical, but they all house very different decks. These are what the cards from the various decks look like. These are just magicians from each. And as you can see, each one of these cards looks very different. The first one is a Pamela derived deck. It has multilingual banners at the top and typeface banners at the bottom. The second one is very atmospheric recolored Pamby. It does have typeface at the bottom. Very nice colors. Can't fault the colors in this deck. And then our third deck is a much more historically accurate Pamby. The colors are a little bit more saturated, but other than that, it's actually pretty solid. And it does have Pamela Colman Smith's calligraphy at the bottom here. So those are all the different decks that come in these very similar boxes. It did occur to me that if someone was interested in acquiring a copy of one of these decks, they might want to know how to identify the deck based upon the box, so that if you wanted perhaps say this Dirty Pam, you wouldn't end up with the current printing of the historically accurate Pam, or even the much older 2008 edition. So I thought it might be a good idea to just kind of like do a quick overview of some of the box differences that you could be aware. The thing I think that is easiest to keep in mind is that wherever you see art from the cards themselves on these boxes, they will be from the deck that the box contains. So if you kind of like take a look here at all our different magicians again, you should see that the magician on the card is the magician on the box, right? We've got a really bright yellow here, really bright yellow here, the atmospheric shading here, mustard yellow, and so on and so forth. And that holds no matter what you're looking at. If we flip the boxes over so we can see the High Priestesses on the back or the front, I don't know which one is actually back or front, you'll see that they're all from the decks themselves. If we look at the Ace of Cups detail, you'll see that all of those look a little different. And then the Two of Cups detail, right? All of those look slightly different as well. But let's just keep it to the magician because everyone seems to consider this to be the front of the box. All right. Let's just point out some of the obvious differences, the macro differences that just jump out at you. To me, one of the first things I look at is the backgrounds. The first one from 2008, it's going to have a very lemon canary yellow background. It's going to be very bright yellow. It is a flat wash of color. This one is also a flat wash of color, but this one, that flat wash, is very obviously lilting towards more of a mustard. The one in the middle, your Dirty Pam, this one will have a gradation in the coloring. It's more shaded, so you'll have areas that are lighter, areas that are darker. The overall impression is a little bit more orange than yellow. The big thing I think that a lot of people actually look at as a very big difference is the color of the table in each of these. The Dirty Pam deck has a very obviously brown table. All right, you can see that those tables all look a little bit different, but this one is the most different with that very, very dark brown. The tables in the oldest one and the newest one are also different. The oldest one is more of an orange, whereas the newer one is more of a red. All right, I can see where that would be a little bit tricky to spot if I was just looking at some random pictures online, because, you know, colors shift in various pictures, etc. So if I am having a big, like, oh no, what am I looking at? Am I looking at the first one or the last one? And I can't, you know, really decide based off of the table or anything like that. A couple of the things I look for are shadows on the magician's clothing, right? Let me actually pull out the Dirty Pam here, put these two side by side, right? There's a really prominent shadow in the Pamby on the Magician's white robe right here. And that would be missing on your Pam A. The Pam A shadows are all a lot more refined, so you don't have that big, massive shadow. You also will have an extension of red coloring coming up the arm of the Magician in the newest deck, whereas it's just plain white here in the oldest deck. Another big thing that I definitely look for if I'm trying to decide if I'm looking at this deck or this deck is, do I see roses? Because this art is actually a little bit more, actually a lot more magnified in than this particular one. So here I can see some of the roses that are in the bottom of this deck. Here I can just see like maybe a leaf or two. I can also not see too much of the pentacle in this particular one. Here you can see about, I don't know, what is that? 3/4 of a pentacle right there. But here you get a tiny little corner. If you didn't know it was there, you wouldn't know what you were looking at. For this one, you can also see some of the edge detail of the table. Here, the edge detail is missing. So yeah, those are some of my big differences for when I'm looking at the Magician detail. Let's pull all those three in. So I think that once you've kind of like taken a moment to look at those and like spotted some of the differences, you'll be able to identify these very, very quickly, practically instantly. Other than the box art, there is not really too much difference between the box art. The art from the cards that are on the boxes, there's not too much difference between the various decks. It is all more or less identical on every side of the box until you get actually to the bottom. Let me see if I can do this without destroying boxes. We'll do this one, newest on top, oldest on bottom, right? So you can see here where the two bottom ones do look very identical, but there is a difference for the 2008 Pam A multilingual one. The orientation is different. The box code EX175 is on the opposite side. Your ISBN barcode is upside down and compared to the others. You're missing the Lo Scarabeo copyright line, and the flags are bigger. So that would be another tell if you really had to break it down. But that's all I got for you today on the boxes. If you are interested in the content differences of each box, I guess we could kind of do that. If you're looking at this particular deck and you can't see one of the cards that it comes with, I'll just put that guy over here. If you can't see these cards and obviously notice that it's got your multilingual titles, you can look at some of the other things. The advertisement cards that come with this deck look a bit like that. Kind of actually super boring and ugly, in my opinion. They do have blue and white backs, right? And you do get this little white book. Weirdly enough, it actually has Pamby Fool art on the front, as opposed to the Pam A that the rest of the deck is based on. But that is the extra cards and things that you will get in deck number 1. Right? Deck number 2, our Dirty Pam, the one that has these inside cards. It is going to have a little black book, first off, right? So there's that. And actually, take a peek here. Funnily enough, it is using the art from this particular deck on the front and back cover. It's just harder to tell because it's in grayscale. And its 2 advertisement cards that this particular one comes with are a Lo Scarabeo Tarosophy card. It has a little bit on the back about like inviting you into this association. And then you also have a advert card for the deck. It has a picture of the Magician from this particular deck with its pretty atmospheric coloring. And then the back of this card does have the card backs with that nice small scale 12 rows of roses and lilies up to down. Really pretty. The next deck in the mix our Pamby Vintage, which is the newest of the decks. Hang on, that's the wrong thing. All right, the one that comes with those cards. It has a little black book, kind of like the other one, but the art is very subtly different. It's super hard to see in grayscale, but you can see that shadow on the Magician here, whereas there's no shadow on the white shirt there. And on the back, it's even harder to tell, but you can see like there's a whiter face here of this High Priestess, some whiter tones here from the atmospheric shading, whereas this one has a very dark face on the High Priestess and some grayer tones overall. That'll be your little black book that comes with the third deck, and it also comes with two cards that look very similar to the Dirty Pam. You have your Lo Scarabeo Tarosophy card. It's identical, you know, that invitation. You also have a Pamela Colman Smith RWS Tarot card, but it does have the same Magician that is on the rest of the deck. All right. You'll also have the card back for this deck, which is a blown up version of the Roses and Lilies. Instead of the 12 of the Dirty Pam or the 10 rows of the original, you will see 8, which I don't think looks particularly nice, but I was not the graphic designer for this deck. So those are some of the differences I've got for you between our 3 different editions of this very identical looking box. I'll just kind of line them up here again for one last look. I hope this was informative, and if you have any questions, by all means, send me a message. Have a great day, guys. Bye.